Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. So this is the scariest part of my hoard, and I'm down here because I'm looking for some diodes and some parts of the battery charger. You could kind of see that I've really cluttered the place up fairly well. Anyway, just quickly, my mission was a success. I'm not quite sure how I remembered that I put these aside here, but obviously I did. So I found the diodes I was after. And I also found these are, oh God, well, a power cord and wires off a battery charger. So I theoretically have everything I need to put that old charger back together again. But while I was here, I also found a whole load of other distractions. You guys want to hear a mini bike story? I bought this mini bike up in the Poconos, Marshall's Creek, for $150 22 years ago, something like that. So I bought this, and back then I had $150 worth of cash on me, and I spent it on this mini bike, and that was like it for the vacation. I was playing with pennies after that. I had very little coin left. We brought it back to the hotel, and we were staying on the second floor of a hotel. The place is no longer in business. Chestnut Grove, right in Marshall's Creek. And along the front of the hotel, there was this long passageway, balcony, but it was common. All the doors open to it. So we were bringing this thing up to the room. I had a minivan, and we squeezed it in the back, and then we were bringing this up to the room. And it turns out I managed to get it running. I rebuilt the carburetor while I was there, and I got this thing running. So we had it, and they didn't care, Chestnut Grove. They let us ride it. So we ran this thing all over the place. And the next year when we went back to Chestnut Grove, I brought this one, and I brought the little 50, because my older son was like 13 at that point. And he was able to ride the little 50 there. So the two of us were riding them everywhere, all around Chestnut Grove and the woods and everything else. Well, you could just imagine how popular my son was. You know, this motorcycle kid, adolescent motorcycle kid. He was extremely popular. So we were having dinner, and my son left, and he came back. He had finished, and we were sitting there talking, and he came back and he asked for the keys, because you'll see on the front down there's a lock on it. He said, "Could I have the keys to unlock the mini bikes, to unlock the Hondas?" And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "And could I ride the 70?" This is a 70, that's a 50. And my response was, "Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you seem to be able to handle it." So, I'm sitting there at the dinner table looking out the window, and he goes by on this thing, and he's got this little redheaded girl, like Peppermint Patty, her name was Ingrid, on the back of it. So he's driving, and she's on the back of it. I think that was one of the best summers he had, summer vacations he had, because riding around on a motorcycle, you're like the big shot, especially when you have your girlfriend on the back. While we're here, just to show you, this is kind of where I keep my hoard of Hondas, all back there and up here on the shelf. And I keep meaning to work on these, and I really should work on them for two reasons. First of all, once like I drag this thing out and start riding it, I'll fall back in love with it and, you know, want them all running again. But not only that, they're valuable and they should be restored. And lastly, it seems that generally speaking, folks like the videos on these, especially if there's somewhat of a backstory, you know. So there we are. It was interesting making it to the old workbench again. I set this workbench up when I bought this house. God, what is that, almost 25 years ago. And I used to work down here quite a bit. There used to be a TV set that would sit there. And at the time I was doing quite a bit of day training, so I always had the financial news on and I was always watching that. I worked a strange schedule back then. I used to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every other Sunday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was off, and I used to spend a lot of time down here. And I used to listen to the financial news that I run upstairs and do my day trading or whatever on the computer. Back then, you know, we're talking around 2000, you know, late 90s, 2000. Laptops weren't plentiful like they are now. Yeah, it's handy coming down here and doing the sorting, because I found a whole load of diodes in there, which was good. I forgot about this air inflator. I forgot about that power supply there. And sockets and wrenches and transformers and nuts and bolts and all kinds of things. What was strange, I mean, it was good. Found this seat. Looks like it's from a X, Honda 200X. Found this bin of hardware, and it's strange because I thought at some point I had many of those bins, many of those cases of hardware. I used to go to the Maybrook flea market, back to ancient history, and at the Maybrook flea market there was a guy who used to get Grainger returns, you know, get all your safety equipment and whatever else at Grainger. And I bought a few of these from him, and I used to buy, you know, Makita drills that were returned, the Makita drill battery packs that were returned. So he had quite an assortment. Maybrook closed back, I'm saying like the late 90s. A buddy of mine, Roger O'Connor, used to remember all that stuff and be able to have the exact dates. I kind of lost track of him on YouTube. Anyway, so I used to buy a lot of that stuff from him, but it's just interesting, all the power supplies and chargers. There's another one there. There's a transformer over there that I pulled from a charger that got run over by a truck, and it seems that I never put it into anything. I'm not quite sure why I turned that flashing light on, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. So, enough of memory lane. We got some work to do. I figured I'd bring you in and have you guys see some of the Honda stuff. You know, it's always interesting. For me, it's a good reminder. Like, I'm not sure what that plastic goes on. I think it's like a 125. ATC 125, but it's also good for me to get down here once in a while just to refresh my memory of what I own and where it's hiding. Yeah, I'm throwing shadows all over that. Yeah, that's a Suzuki Trailhopper. You know, more Honda 70s. I gave Musty one, and I had some deals, and he ended up with a little bit of my Honda 70. and 90 stuff. Kind of hard to part with it, and I don't think I'll ever be able to part with any more of it. What's left, my sons will eventually inherit. Anyway, I really want to thank everybody for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember to keep your feet down, your heads up, and get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.